what's up? I'm going to show the basics of attaching and removing wheels from your angle grinder. This is just a pretty simple basic thing. So this is the nut that goes in the grinder. You can just, well, this is the spacer that goes in the back. You always want this on there. See that, those flat spots on either side of those? You want those to line up with the flat spots on this. So you flip this over, line those up, get that on there. Now, depending on what wheel you're using, say if this is a wire wheel, this has a nut in the center that is already attached. So you just crank this on, and for wire wheels, they're a little pokey, so there's that. Get that on there, and whenever you're ready to take it off, see this button on top. You press this down, and this will lock it, lock your wheel. Sometimes it may have a little bit of spin left in it. You have to turn it a little bit to catch that, and then you just turn it the opposite way of when you turn it on. It pop right off. That is assuming you haven't over cranked this. On occasion, threads on these will get really stuck, but if you do it right, that shouldn't happen. Where did I put those other two wheels? Good grief. Oh yeah. So there's a couple of different ways you can put this on. With a cutoff wheel like this, you want to put this on flat. So if you can see there's a raised part, and then this is flat and it's recessed. So you want to put the part with the recess down on this. So whenever you screw this on, it puts the pressure directly on the surrounding part of the flap disc. Now, normally what I do is I just take the wheel and I give it a crank like that. But if you want to, you can use a grinder wrench to either tighten it, same method, holding that button, either tighten it or loosen it. Now these come in handy whenever it gets really tight somehow and you have to get it off. I don't see anybody using these. Very rare, but on the occasion that you do use it, they come in handy. Just hand tighten them. You don't need to use the wrench to tighten your grinder wheels. Get that on there, spin it in, hand tighten it, and you should be good to go. Same as taking it off. Pressing that button, pull it back, around. Now, I don't know if this is going to be inverted on the camera, but that's just the general idea. Or say it's tight. You just stick the wrench in those two holes. Now, for a grinder wheel, or there's the flap wheel is the same method. Put that on there, and you see it over that ring right there, like this. And then you take the nut that goes in the grinder, and you take that raised part, and you turn it upside down, and you put that into this part. And that seats into there. Just crank it down on there. Hold down the button on the back, give it a good turn, and that's ready to go. Same with taking it off. Hold the button, and you crank it off. Again, if you want to feel more secure about it, or you want it tighter, or you need help getting it off, just go to the wrench and put it on those two holes. It works on either way, whether you're on the inverse or the top, the wrench will still fit in those two holes. Now that said, there may be several methods of grinder attachments out there, as in how it attaches to the grinder head, but I have two here. This one is the standard. This typically goes for your 9-inch grinders, 4.5-inch grinders, and 6-inch grinders, all the same method. This one here, the Metabo, is pretty similar. It has your push button, but the way that the nut on the grinder lines up is a little bit different. So after a certain point of turning it, the wheel is not going to stay turning with the nut. So you have to hand unloosen it. Yeah, that's not quite the word. Take it off by hand, yeah. So with this one, you can see there are tabs on either side. And this ring rotates within the outer ring. It's like a spacer. So with this one, see here, there's notches on either side. You line up those notches with the ones inside, slip it on, hit the button on the back, And then, assuming that's lined up, this will start cranking down on here using that inner ring as the turning point as this rotates around it. So it's a little different. And also with this one, you do not have to flip over the grinder nut for changing out between grinder wheels and cutoff wheels. It's same positioning. It might be a little harder to take off sometimes. But that is the basic principle of this. Spacer is same as the other grinder, has those two flat spots like a rounded off square. Sell that in there. And I'll just put this back on there because I might use it later. And while I'm at it, actually there's a lot of different grinder wheels. And to get off topic a little bit, 3 primary ones are the stone wheel, the cutoff wheel, the wire wheel, and let me grab a flap wheel. Or flap disc. Now this one has been used a little bit. Normally they would be a little wider on the edges, but this is made of like coarse sandpaper. Each of those is a flap or a piece of sandpaper around this wheel. It comes in really handy for polishing up and removing metal, although that's more of the grinder's job. But if you want to use a flap wheel, it usually goes fairly quickly and it leaves a nice finish surface on there, depending on the coarseness of the material of the flap wheel. I believe this is a grit 40 grit, on my roads, what have you. Now, cup wheels work the same going on to the 4.5-inch grinders as the flat wire wheel. Just have the built-in nut on there. You crank it on, crank it off. 2 kinds of wire wheels. You have the knotted and the twisted. Now, it's the same wire configuration, knotted and twisted on these wheels, just these are 2 cup wheels I have. But I would say that covers all the basics and bases. Oh yeah. Now that you mention it, I'm the only one who mentioned it, but here it is. I want to cover all the bases. I'm going to cover all the bases. Or at least the basics. So there's 2 kinds of grinder switches. You've got the flip switch. This turn on. Actually, this needs some TLC right now. The switch isn't working quite correctly, but yeah, this would stay up. And whenever you're done, you just tap that down with your thumb. And the paddle wheel. Paddle wheel, good grief, I can't think. Paddle switch, which is a little more user friendly, I believe. Flip this down, little safety tab, and then you can hold this down. Whenever you're done, just release it. You can't push it down without putting this in first. Otherwise, it's also known as the dead man switch. Don't think that that's gonna kill you. No, it's just I don't know if it's the origins of the name, go back to that, but it's just safer and easier to let go than this sometimes. Although if sometimes these switches are really sensitive, just bumping it, turn it off. But yeah, that's what top I have. I believe it's a paddle switch somewhere. No, this one is a flip switch, but it's on the top instead of the side. Also, I'm coming back to it now that I remembered some things. Take that as you will, but please always keep your guard on. Don't take the guard off. It's there for a reason. It's there to keep you safe. Keep your handle on, if at all possible. You don't always have to if you're like a tight space and you got to work around stuff, but it helps to help stabilize your grinder. So best keep that on. If you need to adjust your guard, there's just a little screw there. You loosen it, swing this around. Some of them just have a little push lever. Push on that, swing it around. And I do believe I'm finished. Hope you learned something.